You know what really cooks my circuits? These ridiculous briefings about primitive species that supposedly pose galactic threats. Commander Vazix leaned back in his hover chair, three of his eye stalks rolling dramatically, while the fourth remained fixed on the holographic display, especially when I could be enjoying my retirement on the beaches of Nebulon 9. I, Lieutenant Corva Zix, merely nodded. One does not contradict a superior officer, even one as insufferably smug as Commander Vazix, especially when that superior officer holds your career advancement in one of his 6 appendages. Sir, the High Council specifically requested you lead this briefing because of your experience with the Sol system, I replied, keeping my voice modulator perfectly neutral. Vazix snorted, a peculiar sound coming from his breathing apparatus. Experience? I flew by their miserable little blue planet once, 87 cycles ago. They were still burning fossil fuels and killing each other over invisible boundary lines. The conference room doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and the remaining members of the Galactic Defense Council filed in. 12 species represented, each more pompous than the last. The Draconians with their jewel-encrusted exoskeletons, the Quartians hovering slightly above their chairs because touching furniture was beneath them, the Voltraxians secreting their signature scent of superiority. Let's begin, shall we? Grand Admiral Fex announced, her tentacles arranging themselves in the formal pattern of official proceedings. Commander Vazix, your assessment of the human threat? Vazix sighed loudly enough to make his displeasure known to everyone in the Tri-System area. He activated the central hologram, and an image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Humans. Carbon-based bipeds from the 3rd planet of the Sol system. Average height, 1.7 meters. Average lifespan, a pathetic 80 cycles. Technology level, developing, but nowhere near interstellar capabilities. He paused for dramatic effect, or so we thought. The hologram changed to show a small spacecraft, crudely constructed by our standards. This is the Voyager probe they launched in their year 1977. Primitive radio technology, nuclear power source, basic imaging equipment. We intercepted it near the Kuiper Belt and have been monitoring their development ever since. Admiral Fex leaned forward. Skip to the recent developments, Commander. Vazix flicked one appendage dismissively. Certainly. 3 solar cycles ago, our long-range sensors detected unusual energy signatures from Earth. We sent probes, which revealed they had developed rudimentary faster-than-light technology. This caused a stir among the council members. The Draconians' exoskeletons clattered in agitation, while the Voltraxians emitted their alarm pheromones, making my nasal receptors itch uncomfortably. Impossible, declared Representative Zorn of the Arcturian Confederacy. Our projections indicated they were at least 7 centuries from such a breakthrough. Well, your projections were wrong, Vazix replied dryly. Humans have a peculiar ability to advance rapidly when properly motivated. In this case, the motivation appears to have been an ice asteroid that nearly obliterated their northern hemisphere. The hologram shifted to show footage of a massive impact on Earth, followed by scenes of devastation. After this event, which they termed the collision, human technological development accelerated exponentially. They unified their governments, pooled their resources, and accomplished in decades what took other species millennia. I cleared my throat. If I may, Commander? Vazix waved a limb, granting permission. Our xenopsychologists believe humans possess a unique psychological trait. They function optimally under extreme pressure. While most sentient species become paralyzed by existential threats, humans become more focused, more creative, and more determined. It's fascinating but irrelevant, interrupted Representative Dorn of the Mechaloids. What is their military capability? The hologram changed again, showing a fleet of human vessels. Sleek, aggressive designs, utterly unlike the utilitarian or ceremonial styles preferred by most galactic civilizations. Limited but growing, Vazix continued. They have established colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan. They have approximately 50 warships with FTL capability. Their weapons technology includes directed energy weapons, kinetic rail systems, and, he paused, and nuclear fusion missiles. This caused another ripple of concern. Nuclear fusion weapons were considered barbaric by galactic standards, too messy, too destructive, lacking the surgical precision of quantum disruptors or gravitational lenses. Why are we only hearing about this now? He demanded Grand Admiral Fex. Because until recently they stayed in their system, I interjected. But 3 standard weeks ago, one of our research vessels disappeared near the Proxima Centauri system. The last transmission mentioned an unidentified ship approaching. Vazix nodded. The glorious scientific enlightenment. Crew of 26. No survivors. The room fell silent. The Quartians actually touched their chairs. Are we certain humans were responsible? Asked Representative Lori of the Aquarians, her gill flaps pulsating with anxiety. Vazix's tone shifted, becoming uncharacteristically serious. The ship's emergency beacon transmitted partial sensor data before going offline. The attacking vessel matched human design specifications. This is an act of war, declared Representative Zorn, slamming a clawed appendage on the table. Perhaps, Vazix replied. Or perhaps a misunderstanding. Humans are notoriously paranoid. They may have perceived our research vessel as a threat. Regardless of their reasons, Grand Admiral Fex interjected, this aggression cannot stand. The Galactic Concordat has maintained peace for 12,000 cycles. We cannot allow a primitive species to disrupt the order we have built. I felt compelled to offer a counterpoint. With respect, Admiral, direct military action might be premature. We know very little about human psychology or their reasons for the attack. What does Lieutenant Zix suggest? Asked Representative Dorn, mechanical eyes whirring as they focused on me. Contact. Diplomacy. Understanding their motivations before we escalate to conflict. Commander Vazix laughed, a harsh electronic bark. How wonderfully naive, Lieutenant. Did you miss the part where they destroyed one of our vessels? Diplomacy is for civilized species. The commander is right, Grand Admiral Pex declared. The Council will vote on the appropriate response, but I recommend a show of force. We will dispatch the 7th Fleet to the Sol system. A blockade should demonstrate our technological superiority and bring these humans to heel. The vote was quick and nearly unanimous. Only Representative Lori of the Aquarians voted against military action, always the pacifists with their ocean world philosophy of going with the flow. As the council members filed out, Vazix turned to me. You will be joining the fleet, Lieutenant. Consider it a learning opportunity. Perhaps witnessing human subjugation firsthand will cure you of your diplomatic inclinations. Yes, Commander, I replied stiffly. 3 standard days later, I stood on the observation deck of the dreadnought Invincible Righteousness, flagship of the 7th Fleet. Around us, 500 vessels of various classes had assembled, a force sufficient to subjugate an entire sector, let alone one primitive system. Fleet Admiral Trazic, a hulking Voltraxian with battle scars across all 3 of his torsos, addressed the assembled command staff. Our mission is simple. We will enter the Sol system, establish a blockade around Earth, and demand their unconditional surrender. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. His voice resonated with confidence. Based on their technological level, we anticipate minimal resistance. I wanted to protest but kept my thoughts to myself. Something about this situation felt wrong. The humans had destroyed one research vessel, yes, but was that sufficient reason to bring the might of the Galactic Concordat down upon them? Lieutenant Zix, Admiral Trazic called out. Commander Vazix informs me you have studied human behavior. Do you anticipate they will surrender immediately upon seeing our fleet? All eyes turned to me. I hesitated, then spoke carefully. Sir, humans are unpredictable. Historical records suggest they value their independence highly and will fight against overwhelming odds. The Admiral laughed, joined by several officers. Admirable but foolish. They will soon learn the futility of resistance. The journey to Sol took 4 standard days at maximum FTL. As we approached the system's edge, Admiral Trazik ordered all vessels to battle readiness. I was assigned to the communications array, tasked with monitoring human transmissions. "Fleet exiting FTL in 3, 2, 1, announced the navigation officer. The star field outside the viewports blurred, then sharpened as we returned to normal space. Ahead lay the Sol system with its yellow star and 9 planets. "Sensors detect no defensive fleet," reported the tactical officer. "Minimal orbital installations around Earth. Several small colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn." Admiral Trazik smiled, all 3 of his mouths turning upward. "As expected. Move to blockade formation. At 6, prepare the surrender demand for broadcast." I began composing the standard declaration when the sensor officer suddenly straightened in alarm. "Sir, multiple energy signatures detected." "They weren't there a moment ago." "Specify," demanded Trazik. "Hundreds of small objects surrounding our fleet position." "They just appeared, sir." "Impossible," the Admiral growled. "Nothing can mask itself from our sensors." The tactical display updated, showing our fleet surrounded by a sphere of small objects, each about the size of a transport shuttle. "Analysis indicates they are unmanned drones," reported the tactical officer. "Armed with, sir, I can't identify the weapons systems." "Broadcast the surrender demand," ordered Trazik. "These primitive intimidation tactics change nothing." I sent the message, clearly stating our demands. Earth and all human colonies were to surrender immediately to the authority of the Galactic Concordat. Failure to comply would result in orbital bombardment. The response came almost immediately, a video transmission from Earth. The main view screen activated, showing a human female, in dark skin, short white hair, wearing a simple gray uniform without ornamentation. "This is Admiral Maya Santos of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered sovereign human space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." The bridge erupted in laughter. Admiral Trazik stepped forward. "Human, you fail to understand your situation. We are the 7th Fleet of the Galactic Concordat, 500 vessels strong. Your primitive technology cannot hope to oppose us. Your species has committed an act of war by destroying our research vessel. Surrender now, or face annihilation." The human's expression didn't change. "You refer to the glorious scientific enlightenment of the vessel that was conducting illegal biological experiments on abducted humans." This caused a stir on the bridge. Admiral Trazik turned to me. "Is this possible?" Before I could respond, the human continued. "We recovered their research logs. 27 humans were dissected while conscious. The subjects included children." Admiral Trazik recovered quickly. "Whatever grievance you believe you have, it does not justify your aggression. This is your final warning." The human admiral's eyes narrowed slightly. "Very well. You should know that humans don't start wars, Admiral. We end them." The transmission cut. For a moment there was silence on the bridge. Then everything happened at once. The surrounding drones activated, each emitting a field of energy that our sensors couldn't penetrate. Our weapons systems went offline, then life support flickered. "What's happening?" demanded Trazik. "Unknown energy field disrupting our systems," reported the tactical officer, panic evident in her voice. "It's affecting all vessels in the fleet." "Impossible," Trazik roared. "No species possesses technology that can disable a Concordat dreadnought." But the evidence was unmistakable. Systems throughout the ship were failing. The energy field seemed to selectively target military capabilities while leaving life support mostly functional. Then, new contacts appeared on our sensors. Larger vessels, human warships, moving with precision toward our now disabled fleet. As they approached, I realized with growing horror that we had severely underestimated these humans. They hadn't just developed FTL technology, they had been preparing for extraterrestrial contact, perhaps for decades. The drones that surrounded us represented technology far beyond what we had expected. "Admiral," I said quietly, "I believe we may have made a grave tactical error." Trazik didn't respond. He was watching the view screen, where the human ships were now visible. They moved with perfect coordination, their designs both beautiful and terrifying in their predatory sleekness. And as I watched them approach our helpless fleet, a disturbing thought occurred to me. What if the humans had known we were coming? What if the destruction of that research vessel hadn't been random aggression, but a calculated move to draw us out? What if we weren't the hunters, but the prey? The first human boarding parties breached our hull exactly 7 minutes later, and that's when I learned the true meaning of terror. The first thing I noticed about the human boarding party was how small they were. After a lifetime of Concordat propaganda depicting humans as savage giants, the reality was almost disappointing. The soldiers who breached our command deck stood barely taller than a juvenile Quartian. The second thing I noticed was how efficiently they moved. No wasted motion. No dramatic gestures. No boastful declarations of victory. Just 6 figures in matte black armor, faces hidden behind polarized visors, weapons at the ready. "Attention alien personnel," announced one of them, voice translated perfectly into standard galactic. "This vessel is now under United Earth Defense Force control. Remain at your stations. Hostile actions will be met with lethal force." Admiral Trezik, never one to accept defeat graciously, lunged for the emergency weapons locker. He managed 2 steps before a human soldier fired. There was no beam, no projectile that I could see, just Trezik suddenly collapsing, all 3 of his mouths frozen in a silent scream. "Non-lethal neural disruptor," explained the lead human, noticing my shock. "He will recover, eventually." The bridge crew, witnessing the instantaneous neutralization of a Voltraxian war hero, wisely chose compliance. I followed their example, keeping all my appendages visible and my eye stalks forward in the universal posture of submission. "Lieutenant Korva Zix?" asked the human leader. My central heart nearly stopped. "How do you know my name?" "We have been monitoring your communications." The human removed their helmet, revealing a face with pale skin, close-cropped red hair, and a network of old scars. "Major Alex Donovan, you are being extracted for questioning." "Extracted? What about the crew?" "They will remain here under guard. Our priorities are command staff and xenobiologists." Donovan's expression remained neutral, but something in those alien eyes sent cold ripples through my fluid sacs, especially xenobiologists. Understanding dawned with horrifying clarity. The research vessel. The experiments on humans. They weren't just retaliating, they were hunting for those responsible. Donovan gestured toward the exit. "Coming willingly makes this easier for everyone, Lieutenant." As we moved through the corridors of the invincible righteousness, I witnessed the full extent of our defeat. Human soldiers at every junction. Concordat crew members seated against walls, hands bound. The most unsettling part was the silence, no alarms, no weapons fire, not even raised voices. Just the quiet efficiency of a thoroughly planned operation. "Your boarding tactics are impressive," I ventured, attempting to gather intelligence. Donovan snorted. "This isn't a boarding action, Lieutenant. It's an arrest." The difference being? If this were a military operation, we'd have spaced everyone except those with actionable intelligence. The casual way Donovan mentioned mass execution sent tremors through my tegument. Such brutality would violate galactic law. "Your laws," Donovan corrected. "Not ours." We reached a docking port where a human shuttle waited. Through viewport windows, I could see similar scenes playing out across the fleet. Human vessels attaching to our ships, boarding parties entering. No resistance, no battles, no glory. Just the quiet, methodical dismantling of the mightiest fleet in the Concordat. Aboard the human shuttle, I was secured to a seat designed for my physiology, another disturbing indication of how thoroughly they had studied my species. 2 guards flanked me, while Donovan sat opposite, studying me with unnerving intensity. "You have questions," Donovan stated as the shuttle detached. I had thousands, but settled on the most pressing. "How did you disable our fleet?" "Quantum field manipulators," Donovan replied, seeming amused by my surprise at receiving an actual answer. They induce controlled decoherence in specific electronic pathways. Basically, they make your computers forget how to computer. Despite my situation, scientific curiosity sparked. Such technology should be theoretically impossible without causing cascade failures in all electronic systems, including your own. Should be, Donovan agreed, then said nothing more. The shuttle docked with a human vessel considerably larger than I'd expected. Through the viewport, I glimpsed its name etched in human script alongside a translation in standard galactic, Consequences. A fitting name, I thought grimly. I was escorted through corridors populated by humans of various appearances, different skin tones, heights, facial structures, yet all moved with that same purposeful efficiency I'd noted in the boarding party. None paid me particular attention, as if aliens were a common sight aboard their vessels. We arrived at what appeared to be an interrogation room. A simple table, 2 chairs, one clearly designed for my species, and blank walls. No visible recording devices, though I assumed everything would be monitored. "Wait here," Donovan instructed, then left me alone. I waited and waited. A common interrogation tactic across most species: isolation, anticipation, anxiety. I refused to succumb, using meditation techniques to calm my nervous system and organize my thoughts. By my internal chronometer, exactly 2 hours passed before the door opened again. A new human entered, female based on secondary characteristics, with dark skin and gray hair pulled back severely. I recognized her immediately from the transmission. "Admiral Santos," I greeted, rising in the customary gesture of respect. "Lieutenant Zix," she responded, taking the seat opposite. "I apologize for the wait. I was overseeing the secure transfer of your fleet's command staff." "All 500 ship commanders?" "All 67 still living." She noted my confusion. "The others chose suicide over capture." A common response among Voltraxians and Draconians when faced with defeat. This revelation sent reverberations through my primary ganglia. Mass suicide among the commander class? Unthinkable, yet entirely plausible for species where failure meant disgrace. "What happens now, Admiral? Prisoner exchanges? Reparations? I assume the Concordat will negotiate for our return." Admiral Santos almost smiled. "Almost. There will be no negotiations, Lieutenant. The Galactic Concordat no longer exists as a political entity." My respiratory system seized momentarily. "That's impossible. The Concordat spans 17 systems, thousands of worlds." "Spanned," she corrected. Past tense. "While this fleet was mobilizing against Earth, we launched simultaneous strikes against every major Concordat military installation, government center, and research facility. That would require hundreds of fleets, thousands of ships. You couldn't possibly." "We didn't need fleets," Admiral Santos interrupted. "Just targeting data and approximately 12,000 FTL missiles armed with quantum field manipulators and autonomous hunter-killers." The implications crashed through my consciousness like a stellar collision. Earth hadn't just defended itself against our fleet, they had launched a coordinated, galaxy-wide first strike against the entire Concordat. "Why?" I managed. "Why such overwhelming force? Why not diplomacy?" Now Admiral Santos did smile, though it never reached her eyes. "We tried diplomacy, Lieutenant. 17 times over the past 30 years, 17 separate attempts to establish peaceful contact with the Concordat. Do you know how the Concordat responded?" I didn't, which was answer enough. 3 outposts destroyed. 4 scientific expeditions captured, their crews never returned. And most recently, 27 civilians abducted from a mining colony for your Arai research. I had no knowledge of. "I believe you," she interrupted. "Which is why you are here rather than in a holding cell. Our intelligence suggests you advocated for diplomatic approaches. You questioned the military response. That makes you valuable, Lieutenant Zix. Valuable how? As a cultural bridge. As someone who might help us avoid further bloodshed, she leaned forward. Because make no mistake, Lieutenant, while we have neutralized the Concordat's military capability, we have no desire to occupy your worlds or rule your peoples. Frankly, we don't have the time or inclination for empire building. This aligned with nothing I knew about conquest. Then what do you want? Security, recognition, trade eventually. But first, we need to ensure no one else decides to abduct humans for scientific curiosity. She activated a holographic display showing a galactic map. Red markers pulsed at key Concordat locations, all disabled or destroyed. But beyond Concordat space, thousands of other systems remained untouched. Your species isn't the only one that's been monitoring us, Admiral Santos continued. We have detected at least 7 other advanced civilizations studying Earth. So far, none have been hostile. We'd prefer to keep it that way. My diplomatic training finally reasserted itself. You want me to carry a message. We want you to carry the truth, she corrected, about what happened when the Concordat decided to subjugate Earth, about what humans do when threatened. The demonstration. The realization crystallized in my mind with terrible clarity. This wasn't just retaliation for the research vessel. You used our invasion as an excuse to announce your presence to the galaxy. Admiral Santos nodded. Every spacefaring species needs to understand a fundamental truth about humanity, Lieutenant. We don't seek conflict. We don't start wars. But when forced into them, she gestured at the holographic display of our defeated fleet. We end them. Decisively. And if I refuse to be your messenger, then we will find another. But we'd prefer someone who understands the importance of avoiding further conflict. She stood. Think about it. You will be provided with quarters suitable for your physiology. We will speak again tomorrow. After Admiral Santos left, I remained seated, processing the enormity of what had transpired. The mighty Concordat, brought to its knees in a single, coordinated strike by a species we'd considered primitive, not through superior numbers or overwhelming firepower, but through preparation, intelligence, and technological innovation we hadn't believed possible. Over the following days, I was given access to certain areas of the consequences under escort. I observed humans in their natural environment, noticing peculiarities in their behavior. They competed fiercely in recreational activities yet collaborated seamlessly in professional contexts. They engaged in heated debates that would trigger blood feuds among draconians, only to laugh together moments later. They showed remarkable adaptability, modifying their environment and technology to accommodate alien physiologies, including mine. Most disturbing, I witnessed their war planning. Not against the Concordat, that conflict was effectively over, but contingencies for encounters with other spacefaring species. Hundreds of scenarios, countermeasures, strategic responses. The humans didn't just react to threats, they anticipated them with almost paranoid thoroughness. 1 week after my capture, I was summoned to Admiral Santos's private office, a surprisingly austere space for the commander of such a powerful force. Have you made your decision, Lieutenant? She asked without preamble. I had. I will carry your message, with conditions. First, I want guarantees that occupied Concordat worlds will maintain their sovereignty. Already guaranteed. We have no territorial ambitions. Second, I want access to the evidence regarding the research vessel and its experiments on humans. She nodded, pushing a data crystal across the desk. All records recovered from the vessel, including genetic verification of the victims. I took a deep breath, which for my species involved the sequential activation of 3 respiratory chambers. Finally, I want the truth about human technological development. How did you advance so quickly? How did you develop quantum field manipulation when even the oldest Concordat species considered it theoretical? Admiral Santos studied me for a long moment. Necessity, Lieutenant. The asteroid impact that nearly destroyed our civilization taught us a harsh lesson about existential vulnerability. We realized that in a universe populated by advanced species, our survival depended on technological superiority. But the leap from fossil fuels to FTL in less than a century is unprecedented, yes, she smiled slightly. You are not the first to underestimate human capability when properly motivated. We hope you will be among the last. She stood, signaling our meeting was concluding. A vessel has been prepared to return you to Concordat space. It contains comprehensive records of our encounter and our terms for future relations. You will find them more than generous, considering the circumstances. As I rose to leave, a final question burned in my mind. Admiral, what would you have done if we hadn't launched a preemptive strike? If we had attempted diplomacy instead? We would have welcomed it, she replied without hesitation. Despite what you have witnessed, Lieutenant, humans genuinely prefer peace. Yet you prepared so thoroughly for war because of a lesson from our history. A human named Vegetius wrote, "If you want peace, prepare for war." We took it to heart. She extended her hand in the human gesture of farewell. Safe journey, Lieutenant Zix. The galaxy's changing. How painfully that change occurs depends on species like yours. 2 days later, I watched from my transport vessel as the consequences disappeared into FTL. The quantum communicator they'd provided contained the entirety of human terms, historical records, and evidence of Concordat aggression. My mission was clear: prevent further conflict by ensuring every spacefaring species understood the facts about humanity. Not just their technological prowess, though that was formidable. Not just their military strategy, though that was brilliant. But their fundamental nature, a species that would go to extraordinary lengths to avoid war until pushed past a tipping point. Then they would bring overwhelming force with surgical precision, not for conquest or glory, but to ensure the threat could never materialize again. As my vessel accelerated toward Concordat space, I drafted the introduction to my report. To the remaining leadership of the galactic Concordat and all spacefaring civilizations beyond. I bring vital information about the species known as humans. They are not the primitives we believe them to be. They are not expansionist conquerors seeking dominion. They are something far more dangerous, a species that values peace so highly they have perfected the art of war. Remember this truth, engraved now in the debris of our once mighty fleet: humans don't start wars.